On your Wednesday episode of Locked On Raptors, sometimes when you play with your food, you get burnt, unless, of course, that food is the Brooklyn Nets.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Wednesday, November the 12th, and I am your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 12 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Instagram. You can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server, link in the description of the podcast, 100% free to join. As always, we'd love to see you become part of our listener community over there. It's always a great time when games are going on. In between games, we got the fake trades, sickos chat, putting together Dallas Mavericks trades, Anthony Davis to the Raptors. Why not? That's why that channel exists in the Discord. Come hang out. We'd love to see you. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started, and we will get started here on your Wednesday edition of the show, talking about a 119-109 win for the Toronto Raptors over the Brooklyn Nets on Tuesday night. We will get into some lineup patterns or lack thereof that we're seeing from the Raptors so far. Ingram plus the bench is maybe a thing they're leaning into. Should they be leaning into that? Is there other stuff they can be doing to have some more core lineups develop here? We'll get to the good, the bad, and the as we always do. But off the top, let's get into the sort of playing with your food element of this game for the Raptors. Yes, they got a little cute in the first quarter of this game. It was a rough start. The starters were disconnected on defense, just kind of butter soft, letting the Nets kind of get whatever they wanted. Offensively, you saw it from the very first possession, just like very slow to develop, meandering, not that sort of crispness we've seen from the Raptors offense for the lion's share of this season on the offensive end. And the first 6 minutes, you're down 18-12 to the Brooklyn Nets. It doesn't feel so good. But for me, if you were watching this game and had any morsel of doubt that the Toronto Raptors were eventually going to beat the Brooklyn Nets and they're just like miserable, totally bereft of talent roster, I think you're just looking to be mad about stuff. Yes, you'd like to have a coast-to-coast victory where maybe you seal it up by the end of the third quarter, roll out the bench for the fourth, all that stuff. But this was a different kind of coasting victory where they just kind of kept Brooklyn at arm's length once they got the lead, and they didn't have to exert themselves all that hard. And at all points of this game, they were a 4 or 5 minute stretch of trying away from putting the Nets away for good and making it a double-digit victory, which is exactly what happened by the time all was said and done in this game. Again, bad opening stretch for the starters. Cue the hysteria. They've been a negative lineup to start the year, though things have been trending up their last couple games out. Oh my God, this lineup, they can't win. They're down to the Nets. This is pathetic, unbelievable. By the end of the game, they win their minutes by 7 points. They're +7. They are now nearly all the way climbed out of the well they fell into in the first couple games of the season. They're up to a -2.5 net rating. They were -7.7 going into this game. Boy, I love small sample theater and the night-to-night changes in the metrics we get at this time of year. But they're back close, inching towards even, and I think they will eventually net out as a slightly above even lineup. They were fine. They took it to the Nets in the third quarter. Scottie picked up a fourth foul. We'll talk about fouls later on when we get into the good, the bad, and the guess where that's going to slot in. But beyond that, it was pretty seamless and easy. And yeah, it got like within 4, I think, late in the third. They pushed it back up to 8 by the end of the quarter. And then in the fourth, you have Immanuel Quickley put the capper on a really nice game from him. His third straight season high, 24 points in this one for him. Really efficient, 10 of 17 overall, 3 of 8 from downtown. The threes are falling. The true shooting for him is inching back towards average on the season as well. About 55.5 true shooting percentage for Quickley now. And, still plenty of room to grow up in the three-point department in particular. The twos are going for him right now, too. The floater seems to be finding that touch again. A nice effort from Quickley in this one to kind of just seal it up late in a way that was always inevitable in this game. The Nets stink. The Nets are rolling out Drake Powell running point, doing go nowhere Kevin Hart-ass crossovers to nothing as like their main agent of creation for stretches of the game. It's not a serious team, and the Raptors, I don't begrudge them for not going full tilt against the team that itself is like the embodiment of not going full tilt as a franchise. I just don't really care that they didn't wipe them off the floor by 40 points. That was a pretty like low effort win where, a few moments late in the first quarter where Scottie comes back in off the bench, dials up the defense. They cut it to within 2 points before the end of the frame. And at that point, when it's 30-28 at the end of the quarter, I'm like, okay, yeah, the Raptors are good. They're going to win this game. And then they comfortably ran away with the second quarter and just kept the Nets at a distance the rest of the way. Like there are different kinds of easy wins over bad teams. And I thought this one was just like a low effort, didn't have to exert all that much, didn't have to dip too deeply into the bag of trying stuff out. They played a bunch of their bench guys a lot of minutes in this game, 20 minutes apiece for Colin Murray-Boyles and Grady Dick, 15 minutes for Jacoby Walter, 18 for Jamal Shed, 13 for Jamison Battle, who we'll talk about a little bit later too. Like they got to sort of take the foot off the gas. No starter played more than 33 minutes in this game. Yeah, just like an easy win over a bad team. And that's like a nice change of pace from the last couple of years where no games were easy. This wasn't a team that had nights where they could just kind of coast at 75% effort and win. And I'm not of the mind that you need to be going 100% full tilt every single night of the regular season. Sure, this team needs to prove more than, say, the Oklahoma City Thunder or the Denver Nuggets or these other teams that are sort of established contenders. You'd like to see them have games where they wipe teams away time to time, but I also don't think there's anything wrong with just a nice casual walk in the park win over a team that is offering very little resistance. And again, you got a good IQ game. I thought Scottie Barnes was just like very quietly awesome in this game. Didn't have to do a whole lot on the offensive end. 15 points, 11 boards, 5 assists, steal, a block, 6 of 9 from the field, only took 1 3, missed it. Just kind of carved up the inside, lots of garbage buckets, lots of pick and roll stuff. We'll get into some pick and roll stuff with Scottie coming up later on in the show as well. But yeah, just like it's nice having easy wins, man. This is what like during, I don't know if you were a Raptors fan during the time of Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan. This was the routine against these very bad basketball teams. It was okay, yeah, we'll kind of take it easy, and we just know we're good enough to put it over the line when we need to. The Raptors pushed this one to a 17-point edge with a couple minutes left before the bench guys, filtered in, and the Nets got some back. This was just as easy as it gets, and it's nice to have a team that's getting easy wins in a way that they didn't in the past. And they did this while having like a stretch. They didn't hit a 3 for like 2 full quarters, middle of the second till late in the third when Quickley got going. They just couldn't save their lives by hitting a 3, 25.7% from deep in this game. So you get a bad shooting night. You get foul trouble for Scottie Barnes that takes him out in the middle of the third quarter in the midst of a good run for the starters. You get no Mamu, obviously, has been a huge part for this team off the bench as well. And it's still just like a no sweat broken win. The Nets stink. My God, they're so awful. And look, you hope the micro scare the Nets put into them in the first 6 to 12 minutes of this game kind of keeps them from starting off lazy against similarly garbage teams in the future. Because man, oh man, do they have a lot of those teams on the schedule coming up. They have a real chance here to pad some wins, climb the standings, and get a good cushion going here. The Cavs tomorrow, that's a real test, assuming Mitchell and Mobley play. They rested last night, or they are set to rest tonight, that is, against the Miami Heat. So you'll probably see a full complement of Cavs guys on Thursday. I think, as we've seen in this Eastern Conference, there's not a whole lot of separation between the top and the middle and the sort of, bottom of the middle tier of the conference. We talked about this on yesterday's show. I think that's a game that the Raptors can totally go and win on the road. And if they don't, whatever, it's fine. They have a whole bunch of very easy games after that to go make back some wins. They get the Pacers, they get the Hornets, they get the Wizards next week. And then for some weird scheduling quirk anomaly reason, in a couple weeks' time, they have another exact Nets, Cavs, Pacers, Hornets stretch. Very weird. They're going to have a lot of time to play these bad teams and wipe them off the floor over the course of the first 3 quarters so they can rest and not do anything in the fourth quarter. They didn't do it in this one. Still no harm, no foul. Like the Nets are not a team that I'm worried about playing with your food with against too much because they just don't have any way to bite back. They're terrible. Shouldn't be like on our televisions, frankly. I don't want to have to watch them 3 more times play the Raptors this year. I can promise you they will be the only Brooklyn Nets games I watch this season. We're going to come back on the other side, talk about some lineup stuff as the Raptors continue to tinker with their in-between lineups. The starters we mentioned kind of figuring things out. The bench, there have been some successful units, but still no groups that have really kind of taken a hold as core lineups. We will talk about that coming up in just 1 second as we get into Darko's search for lineups he can trust night in, night out. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA season is rolling along, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score to the next fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, even when your team is making that late push, or especially when your team is making that late push. And again, you can do all kinds of things. You can make futures bets if you feel like the title odds have shifted since the start of the season and you want to go throw some money down on a team you got a hunch on. Maybe you're a Knicks person. Maybe you're in on the Nuggets. Maybe you're in on the Rockets to take down the favorite Oklahoma City Thunder, who look horrifyingly good right now. You can go throw some money on those teams. And again, all you got to do is throw down $5. If that first bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to go play with across the app as well. And you can do it with all sports, baseball free agent destinations. Kyle Tucker, Toronto, why not? Throw some scratch down there. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up to play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Again, $5, a winning first bet gets you $300 in bonus bets. Go check it out. Today's show is brought to you by Built. No one likes paying rent, but if you must, you might as well get something for it. That is where Built comes in. Built is changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards you can actually use. When you pay your rent through Built, you can earn flexible points that can be redeemed towards all kinds of things, including hundreds of hotels and airlines, a future rent payment even, your next Lyft ride, and more. Plus, Built isn't just about rent. It's about rewarding you around your entire neighborhood. I used to be a renter for a very long time, and I wish this existed when I was a renter because it'd be great to get something back for the money I was just sending to my landlord each month. And if you're a renter now, I'm sure you feel the same. And yeah, you can redeem your Built points for, again, travel to far-flung destinations to get away from the wintry hellscape we live in here in Southern Ontario right now. You can also go and redeem it on stuff around your neighborhood, right? Lyft rides, whatever it might be, to make your day-to-day a little easier. You can go and do that with Built Rewards. Turn your rent into rewards to start earning points around your neighborhood by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnba. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonnba. Make sure to use that link so they know that we sent you. Go check it out. Back at it here on your Wednesday edition of Locked On Raptors, breaking down a 10-point win over the Brooklyn Nets that felt like much more and should have been much more if not for some garbage time give back by the Raptors bench guys. Send them all to the G League. Gulag for them all. I can't believe you compromised a 17-point lead in the last 2 minutes. No. This game, I think it's hard to pull like strong takeaways from a game against a team this bad that's just kind of laying down for you to beat them. But I do think I want to get into the lineups that the Raptors have been using because I think last night was kind of an interesting example of this. No Mamu, and so the lineup and rotations were a little different than usual. Mamu's been one of the first guys in. He's been playing a lot with Scottie Barnes and the starters, and kind of giving that extra space to those lineups with Barnes, and I think it's been fantastic. More Mamu and Barnes is a wonderful thing. But on the whole, I do think, there still is a little bit of work to be done by Darko and his coaching staff here to solve what the sort of next tier of core lineups for this team is going to be over the course of the year. The Raptors right now have just two lineups that have played more than 30 possessions together through 11 games. It's not a lot of time for a lot of these in-between lineups. And look, you have injuries, you have guys cycling in and out, you have foul trouble. Like, no rotation is ever going to be exactly the same night to night, minute by minute. But, maybe I'm just a romantic who yearns for the days of Dwayne Casey's rotations where you could kind of set your watch to them most nights and you can kind of feel, okay, like I know exactly who's going to play with whom at which parts of the game. Sort of generally speaking, subject to some change here and there, but based on game factors. But overall, I thought the way Dwayne Casey ran his rotations during his time with the Raptors was kind of like the epitome of rotation management to me, where you get real long samples of all kinds of lineups. They get time to play together, to learn one another. And then over the course of the season, you just kind of turn your nightly rotation into this 48-minute machine of knowing exactly what you're going to get at which parts of the game. And I don't think Darko's been bad at this necessarily. I think he's just still kind of searching for lineups that really work. And I think it'll come. He's blessed with a lot of options right now, and not all of them are playing super well. was nice to see Jacoby Walter hit a couple threes last night, but he's not been terribly effective. Grady Dick has kind of gone on and off, had some nice moments last night for sure, has also had some not so nice moments, particularly on the defensive end. Ochai Agbaji just seems to kind of be on the outs right now. Jamison Battle has been in and out. Maybe he should be more in than out. We'll get into that too. But yeah, I think not having more lineups that we have a little bit more of an idea of like, okay, you can count on that group in this situation against this type of matchup, I think is something that, can still be worked on here. And we're very early. It's 11 games in, and they haven't had Jakob Poeltl for, almost half the games. And so I get it that there's not like a set tier of lineups, a sort of hierarchy of lineups that they can kind of go to in a pinch. I would say the closest they've come to sort of establishing a second lineup that really works is the 30 possessions that we've seen from the starters with Mamu in place of Jakob Poeltl. I think that lineup's a lot of fun. I think it's like an offensive wagon. I would like to see that plenty. But that's kind of it. They've only played 30 possessions together so far. There still could be more for that lineup, I think, to explore. The other lineup that's played more than 30 possessions is the starters with Colin Murray-Boyles in place of Poeltl from games where Poeltl was out. I don't think that lineup is, it's fun. Like Scottie and CMB in the front's a good size rebounding combination. The spacing is a little bit tricky if Murray-Boyles isn't hitting his threes. I like the Mamu iteration to that lineup a little bit more, but I don't hate that lineup. I wouldn't hate seeing it, but I think more what I'm talking about here is those sort of iterations where you have 2 bench guys, 3 bench guys, even 1 bench guy. If the thing they've gotten closest to kind of leaning on as a base lineup, I know the sort of pieces change night to night, it seems, but Brandon Ingram plus 4 bench guys is something they have gone to a little bit. They've played 74 possessions so far with Ingram on the floor and all the other 4 starters off the floor. In those minutes, in those possessions, plus 5 net rating, tiny sample, but pretty encouraging stuff. I haven't totally loved them eye test wise. I think it asks a lot of Ingram in these offensive lineups. And I think Alvin Williams even commented on this during the game last night. I think in the third quarter when they had that lineup as they were giving up the lead a little bit before they pushed it back by the end of the frame. I think it puts a lot on Ingram, and they often kind of run things through Jamal Shed a little bit too much in those looks. I would rather Ingram kind of get the ball to sort of be the creative force and draw 2 to the ball, that type of stuff, get the ball swinging in those lineups. They haven't quite figured that chemistry out just yet. And look, Jamal Shed's been awesome. No problem with him running possessions, but in those lineups where Ingram is surrounded by 4 bench guys, I feel like you're not really making use of Ingram as much as you could by not having him be the main force of creation. It just kind of also runs counter to the idea of always having 2 or 3 starters on the floor. That seemed to be what the plan was going to be coming into the year based on what Darko said on media day, right? That hasn't quite played out. We've seen a lot of that Ingram plus 4 bench guys. We've seen RJ plus 4 bench guys in a couple situations as well. If I had my druthers, it would be 2 or 3 starters on the floor at all times. But, again, against the Nets, it's also like, okay, if you want to roll out your bench guys and give them some play here, that's totally fine. We did see, though, a little bit of Jakob Poeltl sprinkled into those looks with Ingram last night. And I did kind of like the structure that gave, specifically on the defensive end. Mamu's a lot of fun. A defensive ace he is not. And, there's probably room to play Mamu with Poeltl in those lineups. There's room to have Mamu, sort of maybe stagger with the RJ Scottie side of the staggering as well, and have Poeltl be the backbone of the Shed, Dick, Battle, Walter, plus Ingram looks. Like that's totally fine too. And again, it's still a work in progress here. And I think Darko's searching a little bit for what those core combinations are going to be. And I think the challenge is harder because he has a lot of guys with skill sets that mesh, right? And I do think, of all of this, one guy who I think probably should be playing a little bit more, getting more looks in those in-between lineups. We saw him play 13 minutes last night. He just hit 1-3, had 3 points. But Jamison Battle has just been really impressive to me. And I think he can be really additive to a lot of these lineups, whether it's playing with Ingram and bench guys, whether it's playing with Ingram and Poeltl and bench guys, whether it's playing with RJ, Scottie, and, whatever other dudes you want to sprinkle in around those guys as the staggered duo. Where Quickley fits in. Quickley just kind of fits in any lineup because of the shooting and the ball handling. But yeah, I think using Battle to just kind of inject shooting and size into these lineups, I think is a good call. He's like 6'8". He's not the most rugged and physical defender in the world, but I think he's a smart defender. I think the way he defended last night against the Nets, again, the caveat being against the Nets, so great job defending well against the Nets, but thought he was, doing his part to sort of stay in front of dudes and all of that. And on offense, like there's a little bit of, off the bounce stuff when he's getting run off the line. This is going to be the thing for him, right? If he can start to do things off the bounce when teams are just terrified to let him shoot threes, that's really going to unlock him and make him this really beautifully additive piece to lineups. And there was an instance last night where drew a hard closeout, drove a couple dribbles, kick out to the wing. I think they got a 3 out of it. There's little flashes of stuff like that I think is going to make Battle even all the more viable in these looks. But even just as a guy who shoots the second it hits his hands, he's damn good, and teams are terrified of him. He's a really, really elite shooter, and that skill is enough to get him on the floor. And I think he probably should get a little bit of run here ahead of Jacoby Walter, for example. I think he should be, kind of biting at Grady Dick's heels on the nights where Grady doesn't quite have it. And I think the lineups where they play Grady and Jamison Battle have been pretty impressive so far. I think they played it in that game on Friday against the Hawks where they were just starved for space with how long and athletic Atlanta was. And I think giving those two guys the sort of room to operate as perimeter threats, drawing the defenders out, while you have Scottie Barnes and Brandon Ingram going to work with those guys around them, I think it's a pretty interesting combination, a pretty fun mesh of skills. And I think Battle has very clearly earned himself a little bit more run here, even with just, 3 points, 3 rebounds, and an assist last night. Hits the only 3 that touched his hands. Like, that's what he does, right? Ball comes to him, that thing's up in no time. And, it's probably not a coincidence he only took 1 3 in this game because the Nets were very much all over it and ready for it. But, on those nights, especially, they were 9 of 35 last night. We saw them, in recent games kind of struggle against zone. The game against the Bucks stands out, for example, last week. They figured it out eventually and ran the Bucks off the floor. But, those moments where where opposing coaches are going to test the Raptors shooting and space and all of that, I think Battle's a guy who can become a real key fixture in these sort of core secondary lineups that the Raptors, I think, are still searching for, and I hope they find the space for. And none of this is to say I don't think Darko's done a great job, by the way. I think Darko's been really good to start the season. He's done in-game. I think he's done a really good job pressing the right buttons, putting in the right subs, the right combinations of players to meet the moment of the game. That's been, I think, a strength of him so far this year. That Hawks game really stands out as a clear example of this. But with that sort of night-to-night button pressing, it's a little bit different every night. That's where you're getting this sort of crazy run of lineups we've seen with very little tape. And I would just like to get a couple more lineups where you kind of know, okay, they're going to get 5 minutes at the end of the first quarter, at the start of the second quarter, in the late part of the third, or whatever, right? Like, I think there's room for some go-to groups. Maybe they're still sorting them out, but I do think they can easily find them with the amount of skill set mesh they have. And frankly, the more the ratcheted up shooting juice this team has this season over years past as well. We'll come back into the side. Going to round it out with the good, the bad, and the as we always do. And man, oh man, I am just baffled by how little this team is turning the ball over. We will talk about that. A sort of recurring trend on this show of late is I'm just like gobsmacked at the ball security we're seeing from a team that was terrible in this regard for the last couple of years. We'll talk about that and more coming up in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by Mint Mobile. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees. Say yes to making the switch and get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Mint makes it simple. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can even bring your own phone and keep your same number and contacts like the adult that you are. You get the same quality service you had before, but for a fraction of the price. The setup is super easy. You keep your number, and then you're running in minutes. No one likes to overpay for your phone. It should be, frankly, accessible and available to everyone for an affordable price, because you need your phone to exist in this world we live in today. And if you are ready to say yes to saying no to overpaying for wireless, Mint Mobile is the place to make the switch. Make the switch at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. Today's show is also brought to you by Doer, the makers of some of the finest denim you're going to find anywhere. I got my Doer jeans in the mail this week, and let me tell you, they're comfortable as hell. And I'm going to be wearing them all winter long because I got the fleece-lined slim taper. They are a great fitting jean. They're super comfortable. And that fleece lining, really nice. I've got a newborn son at home. We like to go for walks to get out of the house and all of that stuff. And going for a walk in those nice fleece jeans, going to be fantastic. Also, shoveling snow just got a whole lot toastier for your boy as well. And yeah, they just really are the most comfortable jeans you're going to find anywhere. They have 5 times the stretch of traditional denim without losing their shape. They stretch without being all floppy and gross by the time you're done wearing them. Plus, they're antibacterial, meaning that your jeans stay fresh longer so you can wear more and wash less. And they're made with Cool Max that regulates your body temperature and wicks moisture. All thumbs up features for me. Simply put, Doer makes the most comfortable pants without having to sacrifice style. And right now you can go to the Doer showroom, the new store here in Toronto, 44 Ossington Avenue. Go check it out. Pick up a pair for yourself or as an amazing holiday gift. Mention the promo code LOCKEDONToronto in store to get 15% off your first order, or check them out at duer.ca/LockedOnToronto for 15% off. That's duer.ca/LockedOnToronto. Go check it out. Get some pants. Wrapping it up here on your Wednesday edition of Locked On Raptors. Heads up tomorrow. Katie Heindel is back, and we'll have a regular old Katie episode on a Thursday. And it's not a game day or recap day, so we'll have some fun. We'll play a stupid little game, perhaps, or something cool like that. Joe Wolfond as well coming along on Friday to talk about the big game against the Cavaliers on Thursday night. Let's get into the good, the bad, and the It's the way we wrap up every single episode of this here podcast on the after a Toronto Raptors basketball game, where I get into a thing I liked, a thing I didn't like, a thing that's got me a little bit intrigued from the latest in Raptors hoops action, and the good, bad, and from last night's game against the Nets goes as follows. Starting with the good, the turnovers just ain't happening, man. It's glorious to see. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they went nearly the entire first half without a turnover. Pretty incredible stuff. They finished with just 9 turnovers, and they are up now, per Clean the Glass, to the 4th best turnover percentage in the NBA. Like, based on where this team was last year, where they were just kicking it away for sport, just no ball security whatsoever, gregarious, overzealous passes that had no shot of actually leading to buckets, just sort of sloppy, messy, all of that. They've just eradicated so much of that from their game, and it's been a delight to watch. And you couple that with what they're doing when they are running their half-court offense, and they're kind of just a wagon right now on the offensive end. They're up to 7th in half-court offense in the entire league. What? What's happening? It's crazy. And look, it's the Nets again. They're not going to force as many turnovers as better teams with actual basketball players doing it to you, but this continues a trend of the Raptors just being a way better ball security team. And like, that is the lowest hanging fruit you can possibly pick, just not pissing away possessions. And look, this is a team that has kind of moved away from some of the other low hanging fruit. They're not really, slamming the offensive glass. I think they're 20th in the league right now in offensive rebounding rate. That used to be a way they would sort of make up the possession game that they would lose by missing shots in the half court, by having a bad turnover percentage. They've just kind of flipped the script now. They take care of the ball, and they just score a lot on their first shot attempts in the half court. And so you don't need to spam the offensive glass so bad. It's probably not a coincidence that they've been a really good transition defensive team so far this year as well. We even saw it last night, some instances of like RJ Barrett making a stand in transition, getting a stop. A few other, it's been a recurring thing throughout the season that the Raptors' defensive numbers in transition have been in the top 10 in terms of points allowed over per 100 possessions. Like, it's been really good stuff, and it all stems largely from they're not turning it over with live ball turnovers, not pissing it away and giving up dunks the other way, and they just get to play normal offensive basketball where they can, not send 3 or 4 guys to crash because it's their only avenue to points. You just give it to Brandon Ingram or something, and he scores. You give it to Immanuel Quickley, he bangs a 3, or RJ Barrett, hits a shot at the rim. It's been really nice to see this offense perform so well. It just makes everything so much more normal. And yeah, the turnovers thing is kind of like the starting point for all of it. The bad, fouls. Man, oh man, this team loves to smack the other team around illegally. 5th in the league in total fouls, 5th in free throw rate allowed. Not great. 23 fouls in this game to 20 by the Nets. Scottie had to check out in the third quarter with a quick 4th foul, and look, it didn't cost them. But if something were going to cost them in this game, that would have been the turning point. Had they lost this game in the back part of this game after the Nets kind of started to come back a little bit in the third while Scottie was on the bench, you could point to that 4th foul for Scottie being the turning point for it. Thankfully, not even close to having to reckon with that. But look, and I get it comes with the territory to an extent, right? They are still playing aggressive point of attack defense They're trying really hard. These are largely errors of commission. I'd rather be watching a team that fouls a lot than a team that just like never fouls at all, because it just means you're not really trying. And there's no real correlation between not fouling and being good necessarily. The Pistons and Thunder are both top 5 teams in foul rate in the league, and they're pretty good. So, it's not like it's the be all end all. But for me, the thing that's really killing them is the early quarter non-shooting fouls. They're just in the bonus all the time. The other team's in the bonus all the time, right? Like, they are just constantly giving up free throws at like the 6-minute mark for off-ball infractions, and it's just not necessary. I feel like they got to be more selective and smart about not picking up those extra fouls when you're at 3 or 4 fouls in the quarter. Dial it back a little bit. Understand time, score, space, all of that. Some enterprising stats nerd out there. I've not been able to find this stat, but if some nerd has done it, please pass it to me. Thank you, nerd in the world. But like, give me a number that shows how many free throws are allowed that are the result of shooting fouls versus bonus free throws just coughed up because you have too many fouls too quickly. I would imagine the Raptors are among the leaders in time spent over the limit, among the leaders in free points given up just because the other team is in the bonus because they're fouling them so aggressively. Curious to see if someone has that stat somewhere, but I would not be shocked if the Raptors lead the league in that category, because it feels like they're over the limit within like 4 or 5 minutes constantly. And to close things out, Scottie Barnes and Jakob Poeltl last night, first possession of the third quarter, come out and run a pick and roll. Scottie handling, Jak rolling, Jak finishes. They get a dunk out of it. First play out of the frame. And I went into Synergy this morning to see, like, have we seen that at all this year? Because I feel like we hadn't. And I know we talked in the preseason with our pal Joe Wolfond about Scottie-Jak pick and roll being a thing that this team could really use to overcome the lack of traditional space that they have, specifically in the starting 5. And they just haven't gone to it very much. Poeltl's obviously not been himself. He's not played all the games, all of that. Scottie's adapting to a less on-ball heavy role. But this is a thing they should use more. It was, in fact, the first time all season long we have seen a 4-5 pick and roll with Scottie Barnes and Jakob Poeltl. And I think we got to see more of it. And like, the play was simple. Jak has Noah Clowney on him. Scottie has Nick Claxton. Jak sets the screen. He slips while 2 go to the ball. Very easy, like, make it in a sleep read for Scottie, and Jak puts the dunk down. Beautiful stuff. And like, you dot shooting around them, you trap Barnes, all of a sudden, great things can come out of that. Jak's a really good slipper of, he can slip before the switch has been made. If they're trying to switch, he can get those 4-on-3 situations going, like we saw in that possession last night when 2 went to the ball on Scottie. Bad coaching, by the way, to send 2 to the ball at Scottie. Maybe it's not bad coaching. Maybe it's just bad execution by players not knowing what to do. Probably shouldn't put that on the coach necessarily, but like, Scottie, yes, I know we talked about it yesterday. He's 8 of 13 on pull-up threes this season. Not someone needed to be trapping at the point of attack and pick and roll to leave a guy rolling to the rim when Scottie's that good at passing over the defense or through the defense or whatever it needs to be. But one way or another, there's just like a lot of ways, no matter how the defense decides to guard that action, I think they can get good stuff out of it, right? If they successfully switch, you probably have either Jak onto a smaller guy, or you have a big sort of bruising big on Scottie, or maybe a sort of like a perimeter, less than good perimeter defensive big on Scottie. And I think Scottie's shown a propensity for turning the corner on those guys this season, can make something happen out of that. If he's not just getting it to Jak to go, take it to the mouse in the house. I think, if you have a situation where they send 2 to the ball for Scottie, those easy 4-on-3 reads, again, those are reads that Scottie makes in his sleep, and you're going to get good stuff out of that. You get Jak catching at the nail, all kinds of stuff with shooters lifting up, baseline cuts, all the type of stuff the Raptors are really good with. Poeltl's more than capable of making those reads. And then if they just play it straight up and, they fight over the screen or whatever, the defender sticks with Scottie. Scottie's just like really good at kind of getting the guy on his hip, getting deep position. And then you kind of have Scottie and Poeltl just sort of both converging towards the rim in these situations where their big-to-big passing is really, really deft, really tough to stop. And it just sucks in defenders, right? And all of a sudden, there's a kick to the corner, swing around, 3 up top, whatever. More Jakob Poeltl, Scottie Barnes, 4-5 pick and roll, I think would be a really good thing. And also on the note of Scottie and pick and roll, so far this season, it's been arguably, transition. He's been a demon. He's scoring like a very above average clip in transition opportunities, as you might expect for him. But He's been above average as well per synergy as a roll man as well. Not a ton of possessions. I think 16 roll possessions so far this year. That's not enough. There's got to be more because he's good at it. And for me, he's so far 1.3 points per possession as a roll man. They got to get to that more because he's really good in those situations. Again, as a passer, as someone who's able to hit that free throw line jumper that's been going down for him so far this year. He can, sort of bully his way into that baby hook, all that stuff. Or he can just go up and dunk it like he did a couple times last night. I think, you're kind of seeing the way Scottie's offensive game can evolve here to really sort of let him pop. There's been this sort of criticism of Scottie that, he's not good at enough stuff. He's not elite at anything. He doesn't really do anything well on offense. And I think that's wrong. Like, he's a good transition player. He's always been, kind of a damaging pick and roll guy as a roll man. And I think as you kind of streamline his role a little bit, you make him that transition guy. Obviously, it's a big part of his game. He's got that bully drive into the baby hook thing he's got going on. He's got that free throw line midi game going. You ramp him up more as a screen and dive guy, as the handler in situations where you can kind of find mismatches, whether it's with the big man and Jakob Poeltl or playing with guards and inverted pick and roll with Immanuel Quickley or Jamal Shed if he's going to keep shooting like this, or Grady Dick or whoever you have. I think there's just like a nice sort of aisle that they're sending Scottie down offensively where he can do a lot of stuff that he's just good at. And it's like a honed in, sharpened, focused offensive repertoire that really pops and lets him do the things that he's good at without having to step on anyone else's toes within the offense, without doing stuff that he's not good at. And so, yeah, I'm liking the way things are tracking with Scottie on offense. I would like to see them really kind of work either him as the pick and roll ball handler or the pick and roll man in certain situations a little bit more, especially that 4-5 pick and roll with Poeltl. And again, inverted stuff with the guards. I think, you're not going to run a lot of Scottie Ingram pick and roll because you're just going to get switches of like size guys, but other sort of ways to create mismatches and make the defense think. I think there's a lot they can do with how Scottie's playing right now. And again, just like a very streamlined, effective role for him where he's just able to be a lot more efficient, which is great to see. We're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for rocking with the show. As always, we'll be back again on Thursday. Katie Heindel will be along, and we will play some sort of stupid little game to dig into the first 11 or so games we've seen this season. Look ahead to Raptors Cavs on Thursday as well. Then Friday, Joe Wolfon will be along to talk about Raptors Cavs to close out your week. Please join the Discord. Link in the description of the podcast. 100% free to join. We'd love to see you there. You can find the show on Instagram. I'm on Blue Sky, sort of posting sometimes, mostly just sharing the show, but you get my game thoughts once in a while after a game as well. And yeah, that'll do it. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you again on Thursday with another episode of Locked On Raptors. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye. Oh.